Hey, Chris Liepe here with What Makes Good Singers Good. 5 observations that I've come up with after working with some really awesome singers over the last few years, after continuing to explore my own voice, and, yes, after spending countless hours reading about my favorite singers. I've noticed some trends, and I'm excited to share them with you here and get some discussion going. It's my hope that after you watch this video, you'll leave a comment with some of your own observations about your favorite singers. It's all for the love. And if you'd like more help getting good as a singer, I can help you with that. Click the link below and join my free voice course if you haven't already. And there's lots of ways that we can work together after you've done that. All right, my 5 key observations that every good singer seems to have. Every good singer seems to have this relentless experimentation drive. They are trying new things all over the place, seemingly all the time. I recently watched the Get Back documentary, the Beatles documentary, and Paul is just always making noises, covering parts of songs, playing a part of this song. There's all sorts of things happening with his voice all the time. And he's one of the greatest singers ever, in my opinion. Relentless experimentation. I've had some amazing singers in here over the past years. I recently got a chance to work with Martel, the modern reincarnate of Freddie Mercury. Same thing. There are so many things going on with his voice, whether he's singing in the booth or whether he's working something out on the piano or whether he's just talking. You can hear that there's this constant sense of dancing with his voice. And it's comfortable. And there's also this element of you can hear the music in their speaking voice. And you might say, oh, that's just a sign that they are a naturally gifted vocalist. Maybe partially, but I think more so it's the mindset of always being musical and experimenting with your voice. All right, number 2. Along with experimentation, there is fearlessness. And I've talked about this before on the channel, but when it comes to this trend of every good singer that I know is fearless, there's a couple different components that we really need to study and realize for ourselves if we're going to pursue goodness as a singer like these guys. Fearlessness includes being willing to fail, right? Being up in front of people or being in a recording session and taking risks that you may not succeed at hitting that note or delivering that phrase or whatever. Being willing to take risks in a public, front-facing sort of setting. But it also means being not risk-averse in your practicing, in how you approach your voice, in how you experiment. If you're always afraid of jacking up your voice, you're not going to push yourself like you need to. And like these other amazing singers have, they will all tell you, yeah, I've reached multiple times where I've thought I've damaged my voice, or I've practiced so long or gigged so long or whatever that I was really hoarse. I needed to rest. They will all say that. But all of them that I've talked to anyway, will also say that even though they may have pushed themselves, they needed to do that in order to find the boundaries and find the balances in their voice. So there's those 2 components of fear that you really have to recognize. All right, number 3, connecting your music and your voice to what you're feeling. A lot of descriptors of this trait in good singers will say stuff like, yeah, that guy has some demons that he's dealing with, and you can hear it in his voice. Or, man, she really wears her emotions out there, front and center, on her sleeve. Or this kind of connection, this kind of approach, you're pursuing as an artist You're not pursuing goodness. You're pursuing connection. You're not pursuing perfection or, I've got to hit that note or be technically like this. We've all heard musicians that are very technically good, but we kind of go, I don't get into that. I don't connect to it. But the best singers, the ones that are good, what makes good singers good is that element of emotional connection. Whether they're singing in a 3-note range or a 3 or 4 octave range, if they're not connecting, and if you're not connecting with them, there's not an element of goodness. So what that means for us is that we need to spend way less time worrying about what our range is, worrying about how to get good at something, and in the wonderful twists of the way everything works in life, by not pursuing goodness, by pursuing connection, we become good. Next, intentional environments or community. When you read about your favorite singers, when I read about my favorite singers, and when I talk to them in some cases, their stories and journeys are permeated with this band and this experience of recording this album and how the relationships and the way everybody worked together led to incredible growth as a musician, as a vocalist, as a person. Having relationships with people that are of like mind and of like purpose will lead to growth in the areas that you want to grow in. If you're trying to improve as a singer in isolation by being in your basement and practicing all the time and not collaborating with people, not putting yourself in intentional situations that allow you to be stretched and allow you to be uncomfortable. Now, I'm not talking about going out and performing just, okay, I got to go out and perform. I'm talking about inviting people over and jamming, collaborating on a recording, even if it is online. Being in situations where you have to be around people in long amounts of time so that you butt heads a little bit, so that you have to take suggestions, so that you have to give suggestions. I just finished listening to Dave Grohl's latest offering. It's a book. I did it on audiobook, and it's absolutely incredible and reinforced this over and over and over again. Yeah, being left to your own devices and practicing and being creative and being fearless is awesome. But you are a result largely of the people around you. Don't discount this. Part of this community-driven connection may also help you learn about what your strengths and weaknesses are and propel you into greatness that you could have never imagined. I think of the singer Johnny Hawkins from the band Nothing More and how he started as the drummer, and it really wasn't until he stepped up and became the lead vocalist. He's got an incredible voice, by the way, that the band really came into its own. And there were challenges there in his mind of, he's a great drummer. Should he be the vocalist? There was certainly lots of development and overcoming fear and all sorts of growth that happened as he moved into that role. And yeah, there's some amazing chops there, but how cool. Would he have really come into his own as a vocalist if it weren't for that environment, that like-minded and adversarially minded, in some cases, situation? Now, are there good singers that died in isolation? Absolutely. But that does not discount the fact that along the way in their journey, you can look and, that person, that band, that, and maybe they'll admit it, or maybe you have to put the pieces together as you're reading about it or watching a documentary about that singer. This may be the most important. What are your relationships like? How can you make relationships with other musicians, other singers, other like-minded, goal-oriented types of individuals that will help you with your singing journey? Every great singer has this. And here's the last one, and it's definitely related to fearlessness, but I thought it was worth mentioning on its own. Every singer that I know who's really good has reached a point where they have pushed themselves too hard to the point of, whoa, something is really wrong. I'm afraid I may have really screwed up my voice. I've got to cancel shows. I've got to reschedule recording sessions. I've got to do something drastic and kind of make a right turn with some lifestyle changes, some vocal approach changes. Every good singer with a long-lasting voice and long-lasting career has gotten to a point like this and then dug themselves out of it and come out better on the other side. Different in some cases on the other side, but better. Chris Cornell had a moment like this when he was out of rehab training for Audioslave, realizing that his voice had changed a little bit and having to re-feel out how things were going to work with his now present voice in his early 40s. And then this happened again when Soundgarden reunited. He had to relearn how his voice could access some of those higher notes. And he had major victories. All the way up to the end of his life, he could sing amazingly high, terrifyingly high, and powerfully. It sounded different, but this idea of, I'm not going to give up, things change, I may have overdone it, I may have gone too far, I'm going to be a student of my own voice, and I'm going to pull out of this, and I'm going to be victorious. One of the singers I worked with a few months ago, Martel, reached a point where he pushed himself too hard on a tour and was sick and was trying to deliver to the fans and wasn't listening to his body enough and ended up having to cancel shows, end tours early, and really do some deep introspection and recalculating as to how he was going to move forward. And he is a better singer than ever. This aspect of good singers, of reaching rock bottom in some cases and pushing yourself too hard and then digging yourself out, is a function partially of just a long career. But it's partially because they're engaged in all of the other areas that I've talked about, and they're embracing the danger and the uncertainty of what it means to be a voice artist, a singing artist, a musician. Now that I've shared these 5 aspects of what makes good singers good, I'd love if you guys in the comments would name one of your favorite singers and talk about some of these. Oh yeah, sure, this guy, point number 2, he really reminds me of that aspect. Or yeah, point number 5 or whatever. Let's get the discussion going. Again, if you'd like more help with your voice, click that link below and join my free course. We'll talk soon.